Right now, everybody is freaking out because of the collapse of oil prices, but no one really knows what it means. And I'm not entirely convinced this CNN article knows what it means either. It's enough to, I think, suffice to say, the economy is in serious trouble if oil prices have gone negative and people have to pay to get rid of the oil. What they're saying now over at CNN is that hundreds of U.S. oil companies could go bankrupt. And if they do, we are talking about major economic strife. Oh, man. I don't know what to expect, but if you watched my main segment over at youtube.com/timcast, desperation, economic collapse, 22 million out of work or running the banks, I have no idea. What I can say is that the whole segment I did was on something called Thucydides' trap, which says that when a rising power challenges the dominant power, war becomes inevitable. I'm not going to speak too much on that. You can go check it out if you want, but let's read what at least CNN is saying about what this negative oil price means. They report, the American oil industry is facing a doomsday scenario. The coronavirus pandemic has caused oil demand to drop so rapidly that the world is running out of room to store the barrels. At the same time, Russia and Saudi Arabia flooded the world with excess supply. That double black swan has caused oil prices to collapse to levels that make it impossible for U.S. shale oil companies to make money. U.S. crude for May delivery turned negative on Monday. Something that has never happened since NYMEX oil futures began trading in 1983. It was easily the oil market's worst day on record. U.S. crude for June delivery is still trading above $20 a barrel, but even that's disastrous. $30 is already quite bad, but once you get to 20 or even 10, it's a complete nightmare, said Artem Abramov, head of the shale research at Rystad Energy. Many oil companies took on too much debt during the good times. Some of them won't be able to survive this historic downturn. In a $20 oil environment, 533 U.S. oil exploration and production companies will file for bankruptcy by the end of 2021, according to Rystad Energy. At $10, there would be more than 1,100 bankruptcies. At $10, almost every U.S. E&P company that has debt will have to file Chapter 11 or consider strategic opportunities. OPEC cuts failed to end panic. The most stunning part of the record low in oil prices is that it comes after Russia and Saudi Arabia agreed to end their epic price war after President Donald Trump intervened. OPEC Plus agreed to cut oil production by a record amount. Trump said the OPEC Plus agreement would save countless jobs and much needed stability to the oil patch. This will save hundreds of thousands of energy jobs in the United States, Trump tweeted on April 12th. I would like to thank and congratulate President Putin of Russia and King Salman of Saudi Arabia. Apparently it wasn't enough. And now these companies actually have to pay to get rid of the oil they don't want to take because they got nowhere to put it. It's actually kind of shocking when you have, Greta Thunberg and these environmental activists saying, stop oil production, stop its use now. We got too much. We got too much oil. We went so far in the other direction. Oil went negative. So I think it's silly. It's crazy that we're in an economy where the goal is to stop producing it. What are you going to do? Pay the companies not to pump oil? That's actually one of the things being proposed. Let's see. We have this chart here. This is amazing. It went negative. I was sitting here watching it happen. I don't think anyone really knows for the most part what it means or how long these companies can survive with no opportunity to make money. I mean, you got to understand, companies, they sell the oil. Now they have to pay just to get rid of it. How are they going to have any cash to pay their employees? Will this result in massive unemployment? Honestly, I have no idea. I think we're going to see, at least for now, my limited knowledge on the subject, a bailout, I suppose, for the U.S. energy industry. CNN continues. Yet crude has kept crashing, in part because those production cuts don't kick in until May. And demand continues to vanish because jets, cars, and factories are sidelined by the coronavirus pandemic. The hope in the oil industry is that Monday's negative prices are somewhat of a fluke caused by the rolling over futures contracts. The record low in the May contract comes on very thin trading volume ahead of Tuesday's expiration. That's because there are concerns that there will be no room to store those barrels delivered in May. The June contract, however, only dropped around 10% to $22 a barrel. And Brent crude, the world benchmark, fell just $5 to $26.50 a barrel. Still, oil contracts roll over each month and they don't crash to record lows. There will be a lot of companies that don't survive this downturn, said Ryan Fitzmaurice, energy strategist at Rabobank. This is one of the worst on record. Donald Trump wants to reopen the economy. Donald Trump wants people to protest and demand the economy be reopened. Perhaps this is why. You can't just stop a train dead in its tracks. You know what? I was watching that movie Hancock. You see Hancock with Will Smith? He plays, it's about the superhero, and he's a drunk, and he's a bad guy. Like, he's a good guy, but he's kind of a bad person. Well, in the opening scene, there's a train coming about to hit a car. And so he flips the car out of the way and then stands there and the train slams into him, stopping dead in its tracks. He thinks it's fine, and then it shows the rest of the train as every cart and all of that energy is thrown off the track and it derails, crashing and exploding because you can't just stop all of that momentum. See, people didn't seem to understand this when it came to the economy. That when you stop the machine, it's not just slowing to a grinding halt. Everything behind it is still coming. Waves come afterwards. I explained the damage that would come from the rent strikes. Look, you shut everything down mid-March. People don't have paychecks. They can't pay their rent. Then the rental companies, the management companies can't pay their staff, the maintenance. They can't pay taxes. They can't pay their employees who then get laid off. It creates a ripple effect. It keeps going. Then the demand for everything else drops. The farms take a hit. They start dumping milk. Then the oil industry takes a hit. It won't stop. The train is crashing and flying off the rails. Trump was hoping to get it kickstarted before this happened. Unfortunately, it couldn't be done. It will get worse. The ripple will hit. What are we looking at? Total and complete unemployment? I mean, like, seriously, like 50, 60% unprecedented historical levels. Look, what jobs can you have today? Dude on internet ranting about stuff? Yeah, that's one. And that tends to be a lot of the work being done. I guess marketing and stuff. But you got to understand, man, even I'm taking an economic hit. I may be one of the last to go because I'm an internet complainer guy. You know, and the same is true for BuzzFeed and Vox. We're all the industry of internet complaints. We whinge online for money. But advertising revenue is collapsing. If there's no oil companies, if there's no rental agencies, if there's no products, if there's nothing to sell, there's nothing to advertise. At a certain point, even I lose my job. And then when people like me stop producing, all of a sudden there's a major backlog in internet service providers. YouTube has already been sending people home because of the pandemic. It's an artificial collapse of the economy, but it's a collapse of the economy nonetheless. Let's read a little bit more and then I'll keep ranting about the economy. Unprecedented stress in the oil industry. Signs of stress abound in the oil patch. The S&P 500's energy sector has lost more than 40% of its value this year, despite the dramatic rebound in the overall stock market over the past month. Whiting Petroleum became the first domino to fall when the former shale star filed for Chapter 11 protection on April 2nd, but it certainly won't be the last. Rystad's $20 scenario predicts more than $70 billion of oil company debt will get reorganized in bankruptcy, followed by $177 billion in 2021. And that only accounts for exploration and production companies, not the servicing industries that provides the tools and manpower to drillers. Oh, man. The tools, they're out. The people who make the tools, they're out. Their rent is out. The milk they buy, gone. Everything they buy, gone. People line up at food banks more and more by the millions, and the food banks are already collapsing. Boy, this is going to get rowdy. Man, I don't know what to predict. I don't know what to expect. I've already had a lot of people tell me it's time to bug out. Totally legit. Like, dude, they told me to bug out a while ago. And I'm like, nah. See, here's the thing, right? I'm well prepared. Within reason, my friends and I, we got supplies. We thought about, what we're going to do. And as things, tensions escalate and things are collapsing. And even within all that, we still have an optimism bias. We still don't want to just get up and leave. I mean, we do a show here. We have a job. If we were to up and leave, we'd have to figure out another way. Now, I do have mobile production capabilities. But man, with the collapse of the oil industry, because of the collapse in demand, you realize it's not just going to be oil, right? I mean, there are other natural resources we need. The farmers are already shoving food back into the dirt because they can't do anything with it. The milk is already being poured out and just spilled on the floor because they can't do anything with it. And now they got nowhere to put oil. The train has stopped and now it's flying off the tracks. The toys being produced, the TVs being produced, everything will stop. And no one will buy anything. And then what happens? No jobs, total breakdown. And then what happens when people are hungry and there's no food? People riot for food. I don't know what to tell you, man. I can say here's one thing. We got too much oil, so that's not so bad. You know, I think about these Mad Max type scenarios. You ever see like Water World or something where it's like gasoline is extremely rare and hard to get? Not here. You know, when the apocalypse happens and everyone's out of work, at least we'll have cheap gas. Hey, we'll all be like Venezuela. Perhaps the government will step in and start sending the food from the farms to the food banks to make sure people have food. And then you get complete communism, but we'll have cheap gas. So that'll be a good thing for us. Maybe this is nothing. Maybe it's a fluke. I don't know. I think war. I do. I think war. I think desperation. I think dwindling resources. I think economic strife. And then I think war. There's also possible the inverse happens, that we all start working together over this common enemy, the coronavirus. That could be something good, that we decide to band together, we share resources, and it creates global unity. Yeah, I don't think so, though. You know, the U.S. and many other countries, we have different cultures, and our ways of living are very, very different. I mean, we have a constitution, we have freedom of speech. China doesn't. So who's going to give up? Who's going to give in? I don't know. But boy, is this scary. I'll tell you what. You know, I think this is all predictable. Let me end by saying this. They say the next dominoes. The oil crash is set up a guessing game about which companies will be next to succumb to bankruptcy. The most vulnerable companies are the ones that piled on too much debt, face looming debt maturities, and can't generate cash flow to even make their interest payments. So who knows? They're talking about oil. Think about every other company, every other manufacturer. Think about this. Samsung, manufacturer of electronics. My understanding, I could be wrong about this, I don't have it pulled up, but they're like the majority of the economy of South Korea. What happens when no one buys TVs anymore, or phones, or computers? Because they got no money and they're prioritizing food instead. What will South Korea do? I think war is coming. We'll see. I got a couple more segments in a few minutes. Stick around. I will see you shortly.